Right then, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. My name is Paul. I do the daily teaser here on YouTube. I also do that on my blog, Knickknacks Old Peculiar. And I also talk about movies I've seen, and I really need to sit down with another one at some point. I also sit down with TV shows I've been watching. I've caught Stranger Things just recently. And I've also caught quite a bit of Star Trek as well. Just recently, I've gone through the full series of Star Trek Discovery and the second series of Star Trek Picard, both of which look rather good. I'll try and put links to those in the corner there under the eye, at least to the written version of this review, and to a couple of video playlists of reviews I've done. At any rate, it's Saturday the 17th of September, and last night, Friday the 16th, I watched the first episode of the most recent Star Trek franchise, Star Trek Strange New World. That first episode is called Strange New World, and I wanted to tell you about it. Episode 1, Strange New World, opens with an alarm showing us a base on a planet that seems very Earth-like, but isn't. It's a planet facing a civil war, it's a planet with an alien ship in orbit, and it's a planet whose non-human species are just ever so slightly panicked. With all of this happening, we hear the voice of an officer called Una Chin Riley, Rebecca Romaine, narrating a log entry on exactly how difficult first contact can be. The scene shifts back to Earth, back to the real Earth, and more specifically to Bear Creek in Montana, and the ranch Captain Christopher Pike, Anson Mount, currently cooking breakfast for he and Captain Patel, Melanie Scrofano, whilst watching a classic movie in the background. After sharing pancakes, Patel leaves and Pike heads out for a ride on his ranch, only to be interrupted by a Starfleet shuttle piloted by his superior officer, Admiral Robert April. April needs Pike and the Enterprise to rescue number 1, Una, after a first contact mission has gone drastically wrong. Post-titles, we meet Spock, back home on Vulcan and having dinner with his soon-to-be fiancée, T'Pring, Gia Sandu. Just as she asks him to marry her, is when, rather inconveniently, Spock's commanding officer, Captain Pike, gets in touch. The USS Enterprise is heading out and it needs its science officer. When the pair actually meet on the Enterprise, they eventually end up discussing events when they last worked together whilst heading for the bridge and its newly rotated crew. Spock is science officer, as I've said, and he's joined on the bridge by temporary first officer and security chief Laan Noonien Singh, Christina Chong, helmsman Lieutenant Erica Ortegas, Melissa Navia, and communications officer Nyota Uhura, originally played by Nichelle Nichols, of course, but played here by Celia Rose Gooding. With both bridge crew and ship ready, the Enterprise heads off to rescue the crew of the USS Archer after it found signs of a warp engine. A warp engine seemingly on a planet that showed no other sign of creating anything like technology that advanced. The planet is Kylie 297, and the Enterprise has a job to do, preferably without tripping up over General Order Number 1. Let's do first things first. Let's go slightly sideways here. I have come to this series a few weeks after its first broadcast, whilst I finished watching the fourth series of Star Trek Discovery, the fourth series of Stranger Things, good series that, and the second series of Star Trek Picard, taking some time off to just, give my slowly going square eyeballs a rest and, take a breather, do a few bits and bobs that needed doing. With a break taken, I came back feeling a little bit refreshed and happily prepared to tell you about a TV show I'm watching. That show, of course, is Strange New Worlds, or Star Trek Strange New Worlds. For those of you who don't know, I should try and explain that the series is a spin-off of Star Trek Discovery, and it's a prequel to the original Star Trek, the 60s version, that's supposed to be set some 5 years before that original series. The first episode is called Strange New World, and it's the one I saw last night. Now, you're going to ask me what I thought of the episode, aren't you? I have to say, I think this is a great little introductory episode. It's one that doesn't rely on having seen any other episodes in the rest of the series that make up the franchise. Granted, we see Spock and Pike talking about an unnamed Michael Burnham. She's Spock's adopted sister. Granted, other characters in the episode are on the ship. Dr. Mabenga, Christine Chapel, T'Pring, George Kirk, Robert April are all minor characters who appeared in the original live-action series or the original animated series a couple of years later. As is Pike himself, he's actually only ever featured in one episode of that first series. We get to know him better in Star Trek Discovery, and quite well in this first episode of Strange New World. It sums up the fact he knows exactly what's going to kill him and exactly what his future is. And granted, the different species in this episode can be confusing, but they're never unexplained. The episode makes a point, of showing us various different things. It's a gentle introduction. It doesn't need knowledge of other episodes, but it gives you enough of a brief summary of different things that's going on. To give you an example, like I say, Pike and Spock talk about Spock's sister without naming Captain Michael Burnham from Discovery. Just say that she's gone missing. It also sees a few other... sorry, I'm just going through here a bit. It shows us Spock and Pike talking about Captain Burnham without naming names. It shows us a few of the characters who were small, minor characters in the original series. But it does explain things by showing us what we need to know in a very digestible way and without lots of needless talk. I mentioned that there's a scene between Spock and T'Pring, and it nicely shows us that, with that rather irritating waiter, it shows us that Vulcans are a very restrained people, but also that the couple are having mild disagreements. There's another scene where Captain Pike introduces himself to new members of the crew on the bridge and hands out orders, and it also shows us clearly worried Spock, who's realised that something's going on and something's off key about his boss. So it's a fantastic little introductory episode. It's one that shows us rather than tells us things, and it gives us an insight to some of the new regular characters that we haven't come across before. It shows us that Lieutenant Ortegas is very cocky and very confident about her abilities. It shows us Spock is extremely logical. It shows us that the captain is a warm, genuine, good leader, but also got a lot going on. So it's a wonderful introduction. It encourages me, certainly, to want to watch more and to get to know this crew. And it's got me thinking that, so that on next Friday the 23rd of September, I'm going to be watching the next episode, and I am going to be telling you what I thought on Saturday the 24th. I'll see you then, and until then, live long and prosper.